All it takes is a little twitch of her nose and the world remembers her. Elizabeth Montgomery. For millions of viewers around the globe, she will forever be Samantha Stephens from Bewitched, the charming, witty suburban housewife with a secret gift. Her image became an icon of the 1960s, a symbol of television magic, and she herself one of the most beloved and highest paid stars of her time. To the outside world, her life seemed as lighthearted and carefree as the sitcom that made her famous. But that was only an illusion created on set. Behind the dazzling smile and playful eyes was a life marked by struggle, dramatic turns, and a quiet but relentless fight to move forward. The role that brought her the greatest triumph also became a golden cage, one she tried to escape for the rest of her career. This is the story of the real Elizabeth, the daughter of a Hollywood legend fighting desperately to claim her own name, a gifted dramatic actress trapped in a comic persona, a woman searching for true love through 4 marriages, and a fearless advocate who used her fame to stand up for those society chose to ignore. A story of strength, will, and courage hidden behind one of the most magical and seemingly carefree images of television history. Elizabeth Montgomery was born with what people like to call a silver spoon in her mouth. Her home was a lavish mansion in Beverly Hills, and her father was Robert Montgomery, one of the biggest stars of Hollywood's golden age, an Oscar nominee, and a powerful producer. From the very beginning, she was surrounded by wealth, fame, and access to the highest circles of society. But what looked like a dream was, in reality, a golden cage, and the jailer of that cage was her own father. Robert Montgomery was strict, controlling, and deeply traditional. He loved his daughter, but he already had her future mapped out, a successful marriage and the life of a society woman. When Elizabeth announced that she wanted to be an actress, he wasn't thrilled. In fact, he became her harshest critic, insisting she lacked the talent and the toughness to succeed. That lack of faith became the defining challenge of Elizabeth's life. Instead of breaking her, it fueled her rebellion. Acting was never just a whim. It was her desperate attempt to prove, first to him and then to the world, that she was worthy on her own. She didn't want to be just Robert Montgomery's daughter. She wanted to be Elizabeth Montgomery, an actress in her own right. Ironically, her first steps came on her father's television show, Robert Montgomery Presents. He gave her the opportunity, but she knew she had to use it to escape his shadow. That constant tug-of-war between gratitude and the need for independence shaped her character. She learned to fight, to persevere, and to never give up. And her battle against her father's authority became the first rehearsal for an even greater fight against the patriarchal rules of Hollywood itself. In 1964, Elizabeth Montgomery landed the role that would forever etch her name into television history. The sitcom Bewitched became an instant sensation. Her character, Samantha Stephens, the sweet, charming witch married to a mortal advertising executive, won the hearts of viewers around the globe. On one hand, it was her greatest triumph. She became an icon, one of the most recognizable and highest-paid actresses on television, earning multiple Emmy and Golden Globe nominations. She had finally achieved what she always dreamed of: overwhelming success, impossible to dismiss as her father's influence. But at the same time, the role became her curse. 8 years, 254 episodes, she was trapped inside a single, if wildly popular character. For millions of fans, she was no longer Elizabeth Montgomery. She was simply Samantha. And Hollywood, with its love of stereotypes, refused to see her as anything else. The most striking thing was how closely the show mirrored her own life. The central conflict of Bewitched was that Samantha, a powerful, intelligent, independent witch, constantly had to suppress her true nature to protect the fragile ego of her insecure mortal husband. She gave up her magic for him, trying to fit the mold of an ordinary suburban housewife. In the very same way, Elizabeth, a talented, strong woman, found herself trapped in the patriarchal world of 1960s Hollywood. She was confined to the role of a sweet, harmless sitcom heroine, while inside she longed for complex, dramatic parts. Her real power and potential were bewitched by the success of the show. So, when Bewitched finally ended in 1972, it wasn't just the end of a television series. For Elizabeth Montgomery, it was her personal escape from yet another golden cage. When Bewitched came to an end, Elizabeth Montgomery stood at the height of fame, but she was still trapped. Nearing 40, she knew the truth. Either she broke free from Samantha's shadow now, or she would be stuck in it forever. So she declared war on stereotypes. Instead of resting on her sitcom success or taking endless comedy parts, she made a bold and risky move. She stepped into the world of TV movies to prove she was a serious, dramatic actress. Her first strike came in 1974 with A Case of Rape. The role shocked America. Audiences who were used to seeing her as a charming witch suddenly watched her as a woman enduring a brutal assault. And then the trauma of a courtroom system that blamed the victim instead of the attacker. The film became a national event, seen by millions. It not only raised urgent social questions, but also silenced the skeptics. Montgomery's performance was raw, powerful, and devastating, earning her an Emmy nomination. It was her first major victory, but she didn't stop there. The very next year, she delivered an even stronger blow to her old image. She starred in The Legend of Lizzie Borden, based on the infamous 19th century case of a woman accused of murdering her parents with an axe. This time, she transformed from victim to a cold, enigmatic, and terrifying anti-heroine. Her Lizzie was chillingly calm, leaving viewers in suspense until the final frame. And once again, an Emmy nomination. Those two triumphs opened the door to a whole new era. Elizabeth took on complex roles: strong women of the Wild West, desperate mothers, fearless reporters. Each character was the complete opposite of Samantha Stephens. This was her personal battle for artistic freedom, and she won. Elizabeth Montgomery didn't just escape the sitcom. She proved to the world that her talent was far greater than the magic of a twitching nose. While Elizabeth Montgomery fought for serious roles on screen, in real life she was waging an equally intense battle for love and for justice. Her private world was nothing like the picture-perfect suburbs where her character Samantha lived. Her search for love was turbulent and complicated. She married 4 times, and each marriage reflected a different stage of her life. The early unions were attempts to find her place in the world. But it was her 3rd marriage, to Bewitched director William Asher, that became the most lasting and public. Together they were Hollywood's golden couple. Yet behind closed doors, their relationship grew increasingly strained, especially in the later years of the show. In the end, Elizabeth found true peace only in her final marriage to actor Robert Foxworth, the man she stayed with until the very end of her life. But perhaps even more important than her romantic struggles was her social conscience. At a time when Hollywood was largely conservative and cautious, Elizabeth Montgomery wasn't afraid to take a stand. She was a committed Democrat and an outspoken opponent of the Vietnam War. And most notably, she became one of the earliest and fiercest advocates for LGBTQ+ rights in Hollywood. Her close friend, actor Dick Sargent, who played the second Darren on Bewitched, came out as gay, and she stood firmly by his side. Together, they marched in pride parades, with Elizabeth serving as Grand Marshal of the Los Angeles Pride Parade in 1992. At the height of the AIDS crisis, when many celebrities chose silence out of fear or prejudice, she openly lent her voice, her time, and her influence to fight stigma and support those in need. Unlike her roles on screen, this work wasn't about publicity. She did it quietly, out of conviction, because she truly believed in equality and compassion. The woman who once played a witch on television spent her real life fighting against a very real kind of witch hunt, the one society waged against those who were different. In the spring of 1995, while filming what would be her last project, Elizabeth Montgomery began to feel unwell. She brushed it off as fatigue, maybe the flu, unwilling to interrupt her work. But after production wrapped, she finally went to the doctors. The diagnosis was devastating and sudden. Advanced colon cancer, already spread beyond hope. The doctors could offer her only a few months. It was in that moment, staring down the inevitability of death, that Elizabeth revealed her unbreakable spirit one last time. She was offered aggressive treatments, rounds of chemotherapy that might have added weeks, maybe months, but would have robbed her of her strength and dignity. She refused. Her decision was firm and deliberate. She would not spend her final days in a sterile hospital room surrounded by machines. Instead, she chose to return home to her Beverly Hills estate, to spend her remaining time with the people she loved most: her husband, Robert Foxworth, and her 3 children. It was her final act of control. Throughout her life, she had fought for the right to make her own choices, to become an actress, to define her career, to decide whom to love. And now, she chose how and where to leave this world. Just 8 weeks after the diagnosis, on May 18, 1995, Elizabeth Montgomery passed away peacefully, in her own bed, in her own home. She was 62 years old. It was not a defeat in the battle against illness. It was her last, quiet, and most profound victory, the triumph of dignity over despair. When we hear the name Elizabeth Montgomery, most of us picture Samantha, the charming witch with a playful twitch of her nose. That character will forever remain a classic, a symbol of a simpler, more magical era of television. But Elizabeth's true legacy goes far beyond a single, iconic role. Her story is not one of a Hollywood star crushed by her own success. It is the story of a fighter who never chose the easy path. She fought against the overwhelming shadow of her famous father to claim her own name. She fought the rigid Hollywood system to break free from comedy typecasting and prove her dramatic power. She fought society's prejudices, standing up for those who were often condemned. And in the end, she faced her final battle with illness with the same dignity and determination that defined her life. Elizabeth Montgomery showed the world that it is possible to be a pop culture icon and, at the same time, a serious and fearless actress. She proved that fame can be used not only for personal gain, but also to lift others up. Her life is a reminder that behind the brightest smile can be an unshakable will, and that true magic is not found in spells, but in the strength of the human spirit. That is why she is still remembered and loved today, not just as Samantha, but as the strong, independent, and courageous woman she truly was. Thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you won't miss what's coming next. More incredible stories are on the way. Take care and look after your loved ones.